I want to start today by describing a very specific feeling. It's maybe 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
You're sitting at your desk, or maybe you're on your couch, and you've been incredibly productive by all modern standards.
Right, you've checked all the boxes.
You've checked all the boxes, you've cleared your inbox, you responded to every Slack message within like 3 minutes. You've scanned the headlines, you've liked the photos, you've kept up with the group chat. You have, in theory, absorbed a mountain of information.
In theory.
But you close your eyes for a second, and you just feel blank.
Blank. That's a good word for it.
Yeah. Sort of hollow, dull. Like, despite all of that activity and all that connectivity, you didn't actually think anything new today. You didn't wrestle with a hard idea. You didn't synthesize anything. You just processed data.
You are a router.
Exactly. I was a human router. And it's this very specific kind of exhaustion. It's not the physical exhaustion of, running a marathon or building a deck. It's the exhaustion of being a pass-through for bits and bytes.
That is a profoundly, profoundly relatable sensation. I think everyone listening right now has had that exact moment.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. That moment where they look up from a screen and realize they've been on for 10 hours straight, but haven't actually engaged their own brain in a truly meaningful way.
And that feeling, that's the core tension we want to get into in this deep dive.
It is, because it's a tension that shouldn't really exist, right?
What do you mean?
Well, we're living in what should be the golden age of cognitive tools.
Right. We have more technology designed to help us think than any human beings in history. I mean, if I want to know the capital of Burkina Faso or the square root of a massive number or the entire history of the steam engine, it's just there, instantly.
Exactly. We're surrounded by what is essentially cognitive scaffolding. But the paradox, and it is a massive one, is that while we have all these amazing tools to help us think, we often feel like we're doing less actual thinking ourselves.
It's the difference between having a library in your house and actually reading the books.
Or maybe it's even a step beyond that.
Go on.
It's like having a robot butler who reads the books for you and just gives you a little summary, a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
You get the Cliff's Notes for your own life.
You get the summary, but you miss out on the entire experience of reading. The struggle, the discovery, the nuance.
That is a frighteningly accurate analogy, and it leads us directly to the source material we're going to be unpacking today.
It does. We are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating piece titled The Digital Erosion of Original Thought, and we're specifically going to be looking at the framework presented in a section called QofeBreak 15.
The digital erosion of original thought. I mean, that sounds a little ominous, but also kind of exactly what I was trying to articulate with that feeling of dullness.
It hits the nail right on the head. So the mission for us today, for this deep dive, is to explore a very specific argument that's made in this source.
And that argument is?
The argument is that digital tools, which were originally designed to support thinking, have quietly started doing the thinking for us.
Okay, so that's the shift we really need to dig into. The shift from support to replacement.
Precisely. And the source highlights a central paradox that really serves as our hook today. It says the risk isn't in using the tools themselves.
Right. This isn't a Luddite manifesto. We're not going to tell you to smash your phone.
No, not at all. The real risk is, and I'm quoting the source here, forgetting how to think without them.
Forgetting how to think without them. Wow. That's the scary part.
It is?
It implies a loss of capability. It implies that if the screen goes black or the network goes down, we're just in trouble.
We are. So we're going to examine what happens to our fundamental human faculties, specifically judgment, reflection, and memory, when convenience becomes the primary driver of our daily existence.
All right, let's unpack this, because I think we all feel it, but we rarely stop to analyze why it's happening.
We just accept it as the new normal.
Exactly. So the source starts with this distinction that I think is really important. It says digital tools were meant to support thinking.
Right. Let's really focus on that word, support. And let's use a functional analogy because sometimes this cognitive stuff can get a bit too abstract.
I'm with you.
Think about a lever, a simple machine. A lever is a tool, and its purpose is to support physical effort. It allows a single human to lift a rock that's way too heavy to lift with their bare hands.
Okay, I'm picturing Archimedes. Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it.
There you go. But, and this is the key part, the human still has to apply the force. The human still has to understand the physics of it, position the fulcrum correctly, and push down. The lever doesn't work unless the human actively engages with it.
So the lever amplifies the human. It makes the human stronger, more capable.
Exactly. That is augmentation. You are still the agent. The tool just scales your agency.
It extends your reach.
Perfectly put. And the source argues that this was the original promise of our digital tools. Think about an early calculator. It speeds up the computation, for sure, but it allows you to focus on the more complex mathematical theory behind the numbers. You are still driving the car. The tool is just the power steering.
But the source says something changed. It has that line, somewhere along the way they started doing it for us.
And that is the critical shift from augmentation to automation.
Okay, so if augmentation is the lever, what's the analogy for automation in this context?
Automation is the hover chair from the movie WALL-E. You know the one I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely. Where all the humans are just floating around the spaceship staring at screens.
Right. You sit down and the chair moves you. You don't have to walk. You don't have to navigate. You don't even have to look where you're going. The entire process of movement has been offloaded to the machine.
You become passive. You're just a passenger.
Exactly. You're a passenger in your own movement. And when we apply that concept to thinking, well, that means we risk becoming passive thinkers, or effectively non-thinkers.
And the source breaks down the mechanics of how this erosion actually happens, right? It points to a few things.
It does. It specifically calls out our reliance on apps, automation, and constant external prompts.
Let's talk about those external prompts, because my phone is basically a notification machine.
It's an engine for prompts.
It's always tapping me on the shoulder. It's like having a very needy toddler in my pocket at all times.
Well, think about what a prompt does to your attention and your memory. In the past, if you needed to remember to do something, let's say, call your mother on her birthday.
A very important task.
Crucial task. You had to hold that intention in your mind. You had to create some kind of mental structure to retain it. You were actively exercising your memory and your perspective attention.
Right. I'd have to look at a paper calendar, see the date was coming up, and then keep it simmering in the back of my brain. Okay, Tuesday's the 12th, got to call Mom, don't forget.
You're doing cognitive work. Now, your calendar app just prompts you, a little notification pops up, call Mom!
You didn't have to remember. The device remembered for you.
Which, on the surface, feels great. It's a win.
I didn't miss her birthday. I'm a good son.
From a purely outcome-based perspective, it is great. It's efficient. You accomplished the task successfully. But from a cognitive perspective, your brain learns a very specific and maybe a very dangerous lesson.
Which is?
I do not need to prioritize retention. If the external device handles the storage and the triggering, then the biological machinery for those tasks, it begins to atrophy. It's the use it or lose it principle, but applied directly to your mind.
So the quiet erosion the source talks about. It's not that we suddenly woke up one day and couldn't remember
Yeah,
things.
it's not a cliff you fall off of.
It's that we slowly, transaction by transaction, stopped needing to use these muscles.
Exactly. It's insidious because it's wrapped in the wonderful gift of convenience. The source really emphasizes that word, quietly. These tools quietly erode our faculties.
It happens in the background while we're busy being productive.
You don't notice you've lost your internal sense of direction until your GPS battery dies in an unfamiliar city and you realize you have absolutely no idea which way is north.
That is a genuinely terrifying realization.
Yeah.
And I've had it.
We all have. And the source actually gets really specific about what we're losing. It breaks it down into 3 pillars of cognitive loss.
Okay.
And I think we should go deep on each of these because I think they affect us more than we realize.
Let's do it. What's the first one?
The first one is judgment.
Judgment. Okay, that's a big one. And it's subtle.
It's very subtle. The source talks about how our decisions are now constantly being guided, tracked, or optimized.
Right. And optimization is seen as this ultimate good. We want the fastest route, the cheapest flight, the highest rated taco place, the correctly spelled word.
Who doesn't want the best taco? I mean, I am not going to knowingly settle for a 3-star taco if there's a 5-star taco just a block away.
Of course not. It would be irrational.
We all want the taco.
Yeah.
But let's consider the process for a second. When an algorithm optimizes a decision for you, what are you actually doing?
I'm following its advice.
You are deferring, you are outsourcing the evaluation process. You aren't doing the hard work of judging. You are accepting a judgment that has been pre-packaged and delivered to you.
I see what you mean. If I pull out a paper map and try to figure out a route across town, I'm making a series of judgments.
Like what?
Like, oh, that highway is usually a parking lot at 5 p.m. Or, I know I prefer the scenic route along the coast. Or, wait, I remember there's a little shortcut through that neighborhood that avoids 3 traffic lights.
Correct. You are synthesizing multiple data points, experience, preference, real-time analysis, and you are making a choice. You are exercising judgment.
But when I use a navigation app that simply tells me turn left in 500 feet,
You have bypassed that entire cognitive loop. You aren't judging the route. You are complying with instructions.
compliance versus judgment, that's a really stark difference.
And it's a huge difference. And this bleeds into absolutely everything. Spell check corrects your grammar and your tone. Recommendation engines pick your movies and your books. Curated playlists pick your music.
So when every single decision is guided, as the source puts it, we stop asking, is this good? Or is this the right choice for me? And we just start asking, what does the machine recommend?
We start to trust the algorithm's judgment more than our own.
And eventually, maybe we stop trusting our own judgment altogether. Or we just don't develop it in the first place.
That's the real danger.
I catch myself doing this with spelling all the time.
Mm.
I'll type a word, and it looks right to me. But if that little red squiggly line appears under it, I assume I'm wrong immediately. I don't even check it. I just right-click and accept the suggestion.
You've deferred. And think about what's lost there. Judgment requires practice. It requires making mistakes, realizing you chose the wrong route or the wrong word, and learning from that mistake.
A feedback loop.
Right. If the machine never lets you make a mistake, you never develop the wisdom that comes from error. You become fragile in your decision-making. You need the guide rails.
And that leads us right into the second pillar the source mentions, which connects to how we process all this, the pillar of reflection.
Ah, reflection, the act of looking back, of synthesizing, of, thinking about what you've learned or experienced. It is the digestion of the mind.
The source connects the loss of reflection directly to those constant external prompts we were talking about earlier.
It does, because reflection requires something that is increasingly rare and, frankly, undervalued in the digital age.
Now, what's that?
Space. Mental silence. A gap.
Yeah. We don't really do gaps anymore, do we?
Gaps are seen as wasted time.
Gaps are scary. Gaps are boring. If I'm standing in line at the grocery store for 30 seconds, I pull out my phone. If I'm in an elevator for 3 floors, phone. If there's a lull in a conversation, the phone comes out.
Precisely. We fill every single micro moment with new input. News, emails, games, social feeds, messages. The source argues that this constant bombardment of information effectively eliminates the mental downtime that's necessary for reflection.
Okay, but why is that downtime so important? Can't we just reflect while we scroll through a feed?
Not effectively, no. The neuroscience on this is becoming clearer and clearer. Your brain needs idle time to actually process information.
Idle time.
Yeah, there's a network in the brain, often called the default mode network. It's what activates when you aren't focusing on a specific external task.
So when you're spacing out.
Exactly. When you're spacing out or on a long walk or in the shower, that network is what moves things from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. It connects disparate dots. It's where you synthesize. It's why you get your best ideas in the shower.
The shower principle. It's a real thing.
It's absolutely a real thing. It's one of the few places left in modern life where you usually don't have a screen in front of your face. Your brain is finally allowed to go offline from input mode and switch over to processing mode.
That's so true. The shower is the last bastion of original thought because it's the only place I'm not actively consuming something.
So when we eliminate all those other gaps in our day with constant external prompts, we are constantly in intake mode.
Always consuming.
We are never in digest mode. And if you never digest what you consume, you can't reflect on it. You can't derive meaning from it. You can't build wisdom.
So we're bloated with data, but starved for wisdom.
That is a perfect way to put it. You're just a hard drive filling up with random files, not a mind building a coherent worldview.
And that lack of a coherent worldview brings us to the third pillar, doesn't it? Original thought.
The third pillar. And this one feels like the culmination of the other two.
It's the ultimate casualty.
It is. If you lack the judgment to filter and evaluate your inputs, and you lack the reflection to synthesize them into a bigger picture, then original thought becomes almost impossible.
The source asks a really tough question about this. Essentially, if our inputs are curated for us by algorithms, and our outputs are corrected or even generated for us by tools, where does the originality even live?
Where does it come from? It's a feedback loop, and a dangerous one. If you only ever see what the algorithm thinks you want to see, your worldview narrows. You're in a silo.
An echo chamber.
And if your tools then help you write, or help you create art, or help you formulate responses based on predictive text,
then I'm just remixing what the machine has already fed me. I'm just hitting tab to accept the auto-completion of my own life.
you become a bearer of the tool. Think about something as simple as predictive text in your emails. You start typing, "I hope this email finds you," and the computer immediately suggests, well.
And I hit tab every single time.
We all do. But did you choose that word? Or did you just accept the statistical average of all the other emails ever written?
I accepted the average. I took the path of least resistance.
Your thoughts begin to shape themselves to fit the constraints and the suggestions of the technology. Original thought requires friction. It requires banging two unrelated ideas together just to see if they create a spark.
It requires wandering off the beaten path.
Yes. But our digital tools are designed to do the opposite. They're designed to keep us on the path, the most efficient path, the most popular path, the optimized path.
So we're efficient, we're optimized, we're constantly entertained, but we're not really us anymore.
Or at least a smaller, more homogenized version of us.
A diluted version.
Yeah.
Okay. This brings us to a concept the source emphasizes really heavily. It calls it the convenience trap.
The convenience trap.
It has this pivotal line. It's a look at what happens when convenience replaces effort.
Convenience replaces effort. That is the engine driving this whole phenomenon. We are a culture that is conditioned to believe that convenience is the ultimate good.
Of course, if something is easier, it is better. If it is faster, it is superior.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that when you're tired after a long day and you just want to order dinner with a single click.
Right. Or when you have a huge report to write and an AI can generate the first draft for you in 10 seconds. Who wouldn't take that?
And this isn't to say we should go back to churning our own butter or walking 10 miles to deliver a letter just for the sake of suffering. That's not the point.
So what is the point?
The point is that we need to challenge the deeply held assumption that mental convenience is always a positive thing.
You're suggesting that cognitive effort, that struggle, is actually good for us.
It's not just good for us, it's essential. I want you to think of it like going to a gym.
Yeah.
You go to the gym to lift heavy things. It's hard, it's uncomfortable. Why do you do it? Not because you have a deep need to move those metal discs from point A to point B.
Right. The goal isn't the movement of the object.
No, the goal is the struggle, the resistance. The effort is what builds the muscle.
So when we use a tool to bypass the mental struggle,
We are opting out of the gym for our brain. If you stop lifting weights, your muscles atrophy. It's a simple biological fact.
and if you stop wrestling with difficult concepts, or stop trying to recall hard facts, or stop navigating complex problems without a guide,
Your mental muscle atrophies.
we're getting flabby brains.
Hmm.
That explains the dull feeling we started this whole conversation with.
Effectively, yes. The source lists specific things that these tools have become substitutes for. And it's a powerful list. Attention, memory, and reasoning.
Let's talk about memory, because the common argument you always hear is, why do I need to memorize facts if I have Google? I can just look it up. I'm freeing up my brain for higher thinking.
That is the Google effect, and it sounds so logical on the surface, doesn't it? But it ignores a fundamental truth about how creativity and deep thinking actually work.
Okay, how so?
You cannot have an original thought by connecting two disparate ideas if those ideas aren't actually in your head to begin with.
They need to be resident on the local machine, so to speak.
Precisely. Creativity is combinatorial. It's your brain running this incredible subconscious background process, constantly scanning your internal library of knowledge and experience, and then it finds a surprising connection between, say, 8th century Japanese architecture and a modern software coding problem you're trying to solve.
But if the architecture fact is stored on Wikipedia and the coding solution is on Stack Overflow,
Then they are not in your brain to collide. They are on a server somewhere. They are external. You can access them, sure, but you can't think with them, not in that deep associative way.
so you need a stocked library inside your mind to be a deep thinker. You need the raw material.
Wow. I never, ever thought about it that way. I always saw memory as just storage, like an external hard drive. But you're saying memory is the fuel.
It is the fuel. It is the clay that you sculpt with. If you outsource your memory entirely to the cloud, you are sitting at an empty pottery wheel. You might know the technique, but you have no material to work with. And that makes attention even more critical then. Because to get things into memory in the first place, you have to pay attention to them.
Exactly. And the source talks about how we substitute attention. If a tool can record the meeting for you, and then transcribe it, and then even summarize it with AI, do you really need to pay close attention during that meeting?
Technically, no. I can half listen. I can zone out, confident that I can catch up later by reading the summary. I can be doom scrolling under the conference table.
But catching up by reading a summary is not the same thing as being present. You miss the nuance. You miss the tone of voice. You miss the hesitation in someone's voice that tells you they aren't actually confident in the data they're presenting.
All the human stuff.
You've traded the capability of deep attention for the convenience of a transcript.
And then there's the third one, reasoning.
And this is where AI and advanced automation are really starting to play a huge role. If you can pose a complex problem to a tool and it just gives you the solution, you have completely bypassed the reasoning process.
You have the answer, but you don't know why it's the answer. You can't derive it yourself. You can't explain your work.
It's the ultimate trade-off. Efficiency for capability. We get the result instantly, but we lose the underlying ability to generate that result on our own.
And that dependency makes us fragile.
Very fragile. Because if the system fails or if the system gives you a wrong answer, you have no way to verify it. You have no first principles to fall back on. You are flying blind.
Fragile. That's a really good word for it. And I think that fragility links to another point the source makes, which I found really profound. It talks about the death of uncertainty.
Yes. The direct quote is, "The ability to sit with uncertainty starts to fade."
Sit with uncertainty. That just sounds uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable, and that's exactly the point. Humans, as a general rule, dislike uncertainty. We crave closure. We crave answers. We want to know what's behind the door.
And our digital tools are the ultimate uncertainty killers.
They provide instant certainty. What's the weather going to be tomorrow? Look at the app. Who was that actor in that movie from the 90s? IMDb. What's the precise definition of this word? Click it. Is this restaurant still open? Check the map.
We never have to wonder for more than about 3 seconds. The gap between I wonder and I know has shrunk to basically zero.
And because we never have to wonder, we stop wondering. We stop hypothesizing.
Wait, explain that connection. How does looking up an answer stop me from hypothesizing? Think about a classic scenario. You're in a bar with a friend before smartphones, and you get into an argument about who won the World Series in 1987. You can't look it up. So what do?
We debate. We try to reconstruct it from memory. Well, I remember I was living in Chicago then, so it couldn't have been the Cubs. Or, wait, didn't that one pitcher get injured that year? You try to piece it together.
Exactly. You engage in a collaborative excavation of memory. You test hypotheses. You use critical thinking. It couldn't have been the Yankees because they were terrible in the late 80s. You sit with the uncertainty, and you actively work through it. It's a cognitive workout.
And now, what happens now?
Now one of you pulls out a phone. It was the Minnesota Twins. End of discussion. End of conversation. The thinking stops.
The friction that actually leads to the interesting part of the conversation is just gone. The mystery is dead on arrival.
And on a larger, more important scale, uncertainty is where curiosity lives. If you have an instant answer for everything, you don't need to be curious anymore. You just need to be capable of retrieval.
So the source suggests that this inability to tolerate not knowing is actually damaging our minds.
It truncates the thought process. We stop at the very first step. We start to treat the world as just a series of fetch quests for facts, rather than a deep mystery to be unraveled.
And if we can't tolerate the discomfort of not knowing a simple fact, how do we handle the complex problems that don't have a Googleable answer?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. The big life problems, relationship problems, ethical dilemmas. You can't just search for the definitive answer to, should I take this new job? Or is this person the right one for me?
Exactly. Those are high uncertainty environments by definition. But if your brain is trained to expect instant resolution for everything, if you are conditioned to believe that every question has a direct, correct answer, just a click away,
then those big, ambiguous problems become incredibly stressful, overwhelming.
you feel lost. You feel adrift because there is no external authority providing the correct answer. You have lost the mental stamina for ambiguity.
This is heavy. It's making me realize how much I rely on that instant gratification of knowing. And I want to be really careful here to make sure we don't sound like we're just bashing technology.
No, absolutely not.
Because the source is very explicit about this. It says, this isn't anti-technology.
And it's vital to clarify that stance. We are not in any way advocating for smashing your smartphone or going back to stone tablets.
That's the old man yelling at clouds trope, and it's just not helpful or realistic.
We live in a digital world, and these tools are in many ways incredible. They're miraculous.
But what is the distinction then? How do we thread this needle?
The problem is not the existence of the technology. The problem is the nature of our reliance on it.
It's how we use it.
Yeah.
Or maybe more accurately, how we let it use us.
I think that's right. The source ends with a very powerful line that sums it all up. The risk isn't using tools, it's forgetting how to think without them.
Let's go back to that physical analogy you hinted at earlier, the forklift. I think that helps visualize this whole concept.
Right. So imagine a warehouse worker. Using a forklift to move a giant heavy pallet is smart. It's efficient. It's the right tool for the job. It saves your back from injury.
That's augmentation. That's using the lever to make yourself stronger.
Pure augmentation. But now imagine if that worker starts using the forklift for everything. They use it to pick up a single pencil that fell on the floor. They use it to tie their shoe. They use it to move their coffee cup 3 inches to the left on their desk.
Okay, that seems completely ridiculous.
It is. But then imagine one day the forklift breaks down or runs out of gas, and the worker looks at a small 10-pound box on the floor and realizes they've forgotten how to use their own arms.
Their muscles have literally wasted away.
They can't lift the box manually. They've become completely dependent. They've lost their baseline capability.
That is the distinction. Are we users of the tools, maintaining our own strength while leveraging the machine for the genuinely heavy lifting?
Or are we dependents, helpless without the interface?
And that brings it all back to that feeling we started the whole deep dive with, that mentally dull sensation at the end of the day.
Yes. That dullness is the feeling of atrophy. It is the sensation of your brain being bored because it is not being challenged. It's being spoon-fed.
It's understimulated.
The tools are doing all the heavy lifting, the navigating, the remembering, the sorting. Your brain is just sitting there in the passenger seat watching the scenery go by.
And humans aren't meant to be passengers in our own lives. We're meant to be drivers.
We are evolutionarily designed for problem solving, for pattern recognition, for struggle. When you remove the struggle, you remove a core part of what makes the human experience meaningful. We need that friction to feel alive.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener right now who is nodding along maybe, maybe checking their phone while they listen to this?
Right.
How do we fight the dullness? What's the takeaway?
I think it means we need to become intentional. We need to consciously recognize that convenience has a cost. Every time we outsource a mental task, we are paying a small tax in our own cognitive capability.
So we need to strategically reclaim some of that friction.
Yes, and not in some grand, I'm throwing away my phone for a month kind of way. That's not sustainable for most people.
But in small ways.
In small, deliberate ways. Maybe turn off the GPS when you're a mile from home and force your brain to actually map out the last few turns. Re-engage that spatial judgment.
Or maybe try to actually remember a friend's phone number instead of just tapping their name in your contacts.
Or try to spell a difficult word yourself before you let the autocorrect fix it for you.
Right. Or when you have a question, a trivial one, just sit with it for 10 minutes before you look up the answer.
Let your brain itch. That itch is the feeling of your mind trying to work. Don't scratch it immediately with the instant gratification of Google.
We have to reintroduce the struggle. We have to go back to the mental gym, even if it's just for a few reps a day.
Exactly. Because if we don't, we risk becoming passive observers of our own lives, steered by algorithms we don't understand towards destinations we didn't consciously choose.
This has been a massive reality check. So, to just recap the journey we've been on here, we started with that fundamental shift from tools that support us to tools that are starting to replace us, from the bicycle to the flowing chair.
We looked at the 3 pillars of cognitive loss: judgment, reflection, and original thought. How we are trading our internal compass for external guidance.
We talked about the convenience trap, how we're trading that valuable effort for ease and maybe losing our capability in the process.
And we discussed the critical link between memory and creativity, that you can't cook a new dish if you don't have any ingredients in your own kitchen.
And the death of uncertainty, where we're losing the ability to just wonder, to tolerate the unknown for more than a few seconds.
And finally, we established that this isn't about being anti-tech, it's about being pro-human.
It's about remembering that we are the operating system.
Right.
The phone is just a peripheral.
We are the operating system. I really like that.
We have to keep our own software updated independently of whatever device is in our hand.
And we have to keep our hardware, our brains strong enough to actually run it.
This has been the deep dive on the erosion of original thought. And before we go, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final provocative thought. It's something that wasn't explicitly in the source, but it keeps haunting me after this conversation.
Go on.
We've talked all this time about outsourcing our memory, our navigation, our decision-making, basically outsourcing the core functions of the mind to external drives and servers.
Right.
So the question is this: If we continue to outsource our memory, our navigation, and our decision-making to these external places, at what point does our internal identity begin to fragment? If the you that judges and remembers and reflects is actually located on a server farm in a desert somewhere, who is left sitting in the chair?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? Who is left? Are we the thinker, or are we just the terminal?
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Stay curious.